All right, so welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to tackle something a little different.
Yeah, definitely.
We're not just breaking down a film, but really digging into a really insightful review.
Yeah, a review of a classic, actually, a 1975 Neo-Noir film.
Night Moves.
Night Moves, exactly right.
So, yeah, we're going to kind of, pick this review apart and see what we can learn about the film.
For sure. And I think this is going to be especially useful for our listeners, because Night Moves.
Yeah, it's one of those films that...
It's talked about a lot.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes maybe not fully understood.
Right. Yeah.
So this is like our chance to really get to the heart of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So just a quick rundown for anyone who needs it.
Yeah, good idea.
Night Moves came out in 1975, directed by Arthur Penn.
The great Arthur Penn.
Yeah, and of course starring the phenomenal...
Gene Hackman.
As
Harry Moseby.
Yes, as Harry Moseby, the private detective.
Private detective.
Yeah, we've also got Jennifer Warren, Susan Clark.
And a very early Melanie Griffith in this.
Oh, yeah, very early.
Yeah, one of her first roles, and James Woods, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so quite the cast.
Yeah, a real powerhouse cast.
Yeah.
And it's it's neo-noir, but it's got that kind of classic mystery element to it. And then also some...
Definitely some psychological thriller element.
Psychological thriller, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of all rolled into one. And it's a pretty tight film, too. Only like 100 minutes.
Yeah, it doesn't overstay its welcome.
No.
It's efficient.
It is efficient.
Yeah.
Okay, so the basic premise, it sounds kind of like a typical detective story, right?
Yeah, you could say that.
We've got Harry Moseby. He's a private investigator in L.A.
Down on his luck a bit, I think.
A little bit down on his luck, yeah. And he takes on this case that seems pretty straightforward.
Find a runaway
teenage daughter.
Yeah.
Her name's Deli.
Right.
And but as this review points out, it doesn't stay simple for very long.
No, it gets complicated fast.
It gets complicated.
Yeah.
We get into infidelity, smuggling, murder.
Oh, yeah, the whole 9 yards.
The whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
And the setting shifts, from L.A. to
the Florida Keys.
The Florida Keys, right?
Right.
Yeah. So right away, we're kind of getting this sense of things are not what they seem.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the things this review really captures so well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, on the surface, it looks like a classic detective story.
Right.
But then it uses those expectations to kind of pull the rug out from under you.
Interesting. Okay.
Because you think it's about finding Deli, right?
Right.
But the more Harry digs into this case, the more it becomes about him.
About him. Okay, so it becomes more of a character study
Exactly.
than a detective story.
Like, the mystery is almost secondary
Wow.
to Harry's own journey, which is pretty cool, I think.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah, and the review really nails this idea that the film is taking this genre we think we know.
The detective genre.
Yeah, and it's like turning it inward.
Yeah.
It's about the emotional cost of obsession and aging and this illusion of control that Harry has.
Oh, wow. Okay, so that's really the first big takeaway for you.
Yeah, definitely.
This is not so much a detective story, even though it looks like one.
Yeah, you think you're getting one thing, but
Yeah.
it's really something else.
Right. And you mentioned how the review really highlights that the filmmakers, they weren't interested in.
No, not in tying everything up neatly.
Right.
Like, they're not giving us all the answers.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of what makes it so fascinating.
And so powerful, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so it's deliberate that we don't get that kind of,
That classic resolution.
Yeah, that resolution that we expect.
Yeah.
And the review actually uses this word drifting to describe the narrative, which
Love that.
I like that word too.
It just fits.
Yeah.
It fits perfectly.
So it's not just a matter of the plot being loose. It's like it's mirroring Harry's
His state of mind.
Yeah, his disorientation.
Exactly.
So you're saying that lack of a clear driving plot actually enhances the film.
It's not a flaw, it's a feature.
It's a feature, yeah.
It adds to that feeling of uneasiness and uncertainty that you get.
Right.
And, we're right there with Harry as he's trying to make sense of everything.
Yeah, and that ties into this whole idea of the decaying moral landscape that the review talks about.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So it seems like we shouldn't expect, clear-cut heroes and villains.
No.
Everyone is kind of operating in the gray area.
Totally.
Yeah.
The review points out the motives are all murky.
Yeah.
Truth is subjective, and there's this feeling that justice is just out of reach.
It's unattainable.
Yeah.
And everyone's got these hidden agendas.
Yeah, everyone's got something going on.
Yeah. So that traditional moral compass that we might expect in a detective story.
You can just throw it out the window.
Gone.
Yeah, it's not there.
Yeah.
And that feeds into this overall feeling of cynicism,
Right.
which is definitely something the review wants us to pick up on.
Right, and then there's the ending, which,
Whoa.
the review calls it shocking, ambiguous, and existential,
Yeah, that about covers it.
and really stresses that the case was never the point.
No, the case was just the vehicle to
Yeah.
get to something much bigger.
Right, so it's not about finding the answers.
No.
It's about,
It's about confronting those really uncomfortable truths.
this disillusionment
Yeah, exactly.
that Harry experiences.
And it's designed to stay with you.
Right.
It's not a film that you just forget about as soon as the credits roll.
No, it lingers.
It lingers,
Yeah.
yeah. And the review makes it clear that that's intentional.
Okay, let's talk about Harry himself a little bit.
Yeah, Gene Hackman.
Gene Hackman giving what the review calls an underrated performance.
It's a shame it's not talked about more.
Yeah.
But I think the review is right to champion it.
Yeah, I mean, they describe him as, tired, wounded, and deeply human, a real anti-hero.
Oh, yeah. He's so far from the stereotypical cool and collected detective.
Right.
He's flawed. He's vulnerable.
Yeah.
You really feel for him.
You really feel for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so he's not in control.
No, not at all.
He's not calling the shots.
And I think that's what makes him so interesting. He's
Yeah.
wrestling with these internal struggles.
Right, and this idea that, he used to have a clearer sense of right and wrong.
Yeah, I think he did.
But now...
But now it's all muddled.
Muddled, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good word.
And Hackman just embodies that so perfectly.
Yeah, and the review doesn't just focus on Harry, it also talks about
The other characters.
right? Yeah, how they're all complex and
Oh, they're fascinating.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Jennifer Warren's character, Paula, she's described as both honest and manipulative.
Yeah, it's hard to pin her down.
Yeah, so again, that moral grayness that we were talking about,
It's everywhere.
it's everywhere.
Yeah.
And then we've got Melanie Griffith as Deli,
Yeah, in her debut.
her debut. Yeah, the review calls her eerily effective and a symbol of all these things.
Exploitation, freedom, danger.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, she's a really interesting character.
So for you, she represents a lot of the
film's themes.
Yeah, the film's themes. Yeah. Okay.
That tension between innocence and experience and, the way she's kind of used and manipulated by the adults around her.
Right.
It's all there in her performance.
And even James Woods in a really early role.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's noted for his twitchy menace.
He's got that intensity even back then.
Even back then.
Yeah.
So it seems like everyone Harry encounters is kind of a riddle.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a neo-noir. That's kind of the point. You're never quite sure who to trust.
Right.
And, the review makes it clear that these aren't just like stock characters.
Yeah.
They're fully fleshed out people.
Okay.
With their own secrets and motivations.
And that makes it even harder for Harry
Oh,
to
yeah.
figure things out.
Definitely.
Okay, let's move on to the visual and atmospheric elements.
No, I'd love to talk about that.
Yeah, the review praises Bruce Surtees' cinematography.
Oh, he's a master.
He's a master.
Yeah.
Yeah, and talks about how he captures both sunlit exteriors and shadowy interiors.
Yeah. That's classic noir right there.
It is.
Yeah.
But with this sense of isolation and unease.
Yeah, it's more than just visuals. It's like a mood.
It's a mood.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that contrast is important.
Definitely. It reinforces the themes of the film.
Okay, how so?
Well, you've got the bright California sunshine, but it can't penetrate the darkness of what's happening,
Oh, wow.
morally speaking.
Interesting.
And then those shadowy interiors,
Yeah.
they just emphasize Harry's isolation.
Yeah.
And that feeling of uneasiness that just permeates the whole film.
Right.
And, it's all very deliberate. It's all part of creating that neo-noir atmosphere.
Okay, and the Florida Keys setting,
Yeah.
the review calls it haunting
Yeah, it is.
and talks about these wide open spaces that somehow feel claustrophobic.
Yeah, that's such a great observation.
Yeah.
Because on the surface, it should be freeing, right?
Yeah, the Keys, yeah.
But it's not for Harry.
No.
He's still trapped
Right.
by his own inner demons.
Yeah.
And that feeling of claustrophobia in a place that's supposed to be wide open,
Yeah.
it's really effective.
It's really effective, yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's the final shot,
Ah, yes.
which the review says is haunting, circular, and unresolved.
A perfect way to end the film.
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil anything.
Right, of course.
But it just sums up everything.
Okay.
Those themes of unresolved issues and Harry's ongoing struggle,
Yeah.
it's a powerful image that sticks with you.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk about the sound.
All right.
The review mentions Michael Small's score.
Yeah, he did a great job.
Yeah, and calls it spare and subtle.
Very understated.
Yeah, it sounds like it intentionally takes a backseat to the dialogue, and the atmosphere.
Yeah, I think that was a smart choice.
Okay.
Because an overly dramatic score would have just been too much.
Yeah.
You know?
It would have been distracting.
Yeah, it would have distracted from the tension that's already there.
Right.
In the scenes and in the dialogue.
And the review also points out the effective use of silences, pauses, and ambient tension.
Yeah, that's something Arthur Penn is really good at.
Yeah.
Creating those moments of quiet.
Right.
Where you can just feel the tension building.
Yeah.
And it's more unsettling than any loud music could ever be.
Right. And those quieter moments give us a chance to really see
Harry's inner turmoil.
Yeah, his inner turmoil.
Oh, okay. It's all there in those silences.
Okay, so beyond the surface level mystery, the whodunit,
right.
The review talks about these deeper themes that Arthur Penn is exploring.
Right, yeah.
Masculinity in crisis is a big one.
Huge one.
Yeah. Where Harry is really uncertain about these traditional ideas of strength and certainty.
He doesn't fit the mold.
He doesn't fit the mold, no.
Of the classic tough guy detective.
Yeah.
He's questioning everything.
And so for you, this adds a whole other layer to the film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not just about solving a crime.
Yeah.
It's about Harry's struggle with his own identity.
Okay.
And his place in the world.
Yeah.
Which is something I think a lot of people can relate to.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially men.
Especially men, right?
Yeah.
And then there's the theme of disillusionment.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, which the review connects to
the post-Watergate era.
Post-Watergate era.
Yeah.
This idea that there is no American ideal of justice or morality.
Yeah, it's gone.
Gone.
Or at least it feels that way in this film.
In the world of the film, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that reflects the cynicism of that time.
Right.
But it's also something that I think still resonates today.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, we're still dealing with a lot of those same issues.
Right.
Trust in institutions.
Yeah.
Moral ambiguity.
Right.
It's all still there.
And then there's this concept of voyeurism and detachment.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, Harry's constantly observing.
He's always watching.
Watching, but never really connecting.
Yeah, he's like an outsider looking in.
Yeah, and that might explain why he has so much trouble.
Getting to the truth.
Getting to the truth.
Yeah. He's so detached from everything.
And that kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier about the film being more about Harry than about the mystery.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The mystery is just a way to explore his character.
Right.
His flaws, his limitations.
Yeah. And the review really emphasizes this idea that Night Moves is
a product of its time.
Yeah, a 70s elegy rather than just a thriller.
Yeah, it's reflecting that post-Watergate, post-Vietnam cynicism.
Right, so it's not just a personal story for Harry.
No, it's tapping into something bigger.
Yeah, a societal unease.
Exactly.
Okay, now the review does mention some potential criticisms.
Yeah.
But frames them as deliberate artistic choices.
Right.
You know, things that might not appeal to everyone.
Sure.
But actually contribute to the film's unique power.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, so the slow and meditative pacing, for instance.
Yeah.
That might not be for everyone.
If you're looking for a fast-paced action movie,
right,
this is not the film for you.
But that pacing is essential to the mood.
Absolutely.
And the character development.
You need that time to really get into Harry's head.
Yeah.
And to experience that slow burn of tension.
Right.
That the film does so well.
And then there's the intentionally muddy mystery.
Right.
And the lack of clear catharsis, which, again, might frustrate some viewers.
If you're expecting a neat resolution, you're going to be disappointed.
But that ambiguity is part of the point.
It is.
Yeah.
It's about the journey, not the destination.
Yeah.
And the lack of answers actually forces you to think more deeply about the themes.
Yeah.
About Harry's state of mind, about the world he inhabits.
And the review also notes that the emotional impact is subtle.
Yeah, very subtle.
Yeah, it's not a film that
hits you over the head with its emotions.
Oh.
No, it's more nuanced than that.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes it so powerful.
Okay. And then the review kind of circles back to some of the most memorable elements.
Yeah, the highlights.
The highlights, yeah. Gene Hackman's performance.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
He's just brilliant.
Brilliant, yeah.
It's a masterclass in understated acting. You know, he conveys so much with just a look.
Right.
A gesture.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And that existential dread that we talked about.
Yeah, that pervades the whole film. It's like a weight that's hanging over everything, and it really stays with you.
And, of course, that final scene.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Unforgettable.
Unforgettable, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the quiet tension between Harry and the other characters.
Yeah, the way they interact, it's all very subtle.
Right.
But you can feel the tension simmering beneath the surface.
Yeah.
And that makes it all the more unsettling.
Right. And finally, the sharp, melancholy dialogue.
Yeah, the writing is fantastic.
It's fantastic, yeah, including that line about...
The Romer films?
Romer films, yeah.
Yeah, that's a classic.
It is, yeah. So for you, the writing itself really contributes to the film's overall mood.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's witty, it's insightful,
yeah.
and it perfectly captures Harry's worldview.
Okay, so to wrap things up,
yeah,
the review concludes that Night Moves is...
one of the great neo-noirs of the 1970s.
Yeah, a film that uses the detective genre to explore...
personal despair.
Personal despair, yeah.
Yeah.
So again, not your typical detective story.
No, not at all.
And the review really drives home this point that the film is...
as much about the man.
As much about the man.
Yeah.
As it is about the mystery.
So character study first and foremost.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, and it describes the film as...
quietly devastating.
Quietly devastating, yeah.
Poetically cynical.
Poetically cynical and...
beautifully acted.
Beautifully acted, yeah. And ultimately leaving you...
haunted.
Haunted.
Rather than satisfied.
Rather than satisfied.
Yeah.
Okay, so not exactly a light and breezy watch.
No, this is a film that makes you think.
Yeah.
Makes you feel.
It stays with you.
Yeah. And finally, the review gives it a rating of...
9 out of 10.
9 out of 10.
Yeah.
Calling it a...
moody, melancholic masterpiece.
Yeah.
With a special shout out to Hackman's performance.
Okay, so we've taken this deep dive into the review of Night Moves.
Yeah.
And hopefully you now have a better understanding of...
what makes it tick.
What makes it tick, yeah. And how it really goes beyond just a simple detective story.
Exactly.
To explore these bigger themes of disillusionment,
yeah,
moral ambiguity, and ultimately this man's kind of unraveling.
His search for meaning.
Yeah.
In a world that seems to have lost its way.
Yeah, and I think this raises a really interesting question for our listeners to consider.
Yeah, I'd love to hear their thoughts.
So think about this. You know, detective stories often reflect the anxieties of the time in which they're made.
For sure.
So in what ways does Harry Moseby's disillusionment reflect the specific anxieties and cynicism of the 1970s?
That's a great question.
And why do you think these kinds of stories where we don't get easy answers, why do they continue to resonate with us today?
Why are we still drawn to those unresolved narratives?
Yeah.
I think there's something there.
I think so too.
Yeah.
So if you've seen Night Moves, we would love to hear your thoughts.
Please share them with us.
Yeah, share your interpretations, especially in light of what we've discussed today.
Yeah, this deep dive was all about equipping you with the tools to really appreciate this film.
Yeah.
To understand its nuances, its complexities.
Yeah.
And hopefully to see it in a new light.
Exactly. And as always, we appreciate you joining us for another deep dive.
Thanks for listening.
We'll see you next time.
See you later.
Bye.